UltraCycling magazine, and the show we adore.
Welcome to the UltraCycling magazine show.
I wished I looked better. Unfortunately, I look skinny and sunken-cheeked, as is pretty usual after this sort of thing.
This is an UltraCycling show, Ian. You don't have to make any excuses here. Well, Ian McBride, you kind of made the news here because of what happened on London-Edinburgh-London this year. As I understand it, you were the first person, the only person to make it all the way to Edinburgh checkpoint. Is that correct?
I was the only one to make it all the way to the Edinburgh checkpoint before they called a close and said that we needed to return. I do know that many other people unofficially then rode up and rode back down again. I think there's still some arriving now. It's several days later now. There was also the test rider who checks the route checker, who did it several days before. So I'm not quite the only one.
Yeah, but don't start. We have a thing here on the show, Ian. We don't allow people to start putting themselves down and stay only and just and all that kind of stuff. Good Lord, you made news. Now, what I want to know, one news report said you were from New Zealand, and another said you were from London. So get this straightened out.
I'm a New Zealander living in London. So I was born in New Zealand. I was raised in New Zealand. I started all my sport in New Zealand, and then I moved to London 1996, 97, somewhere around there, for a holiday, for 6 months holiday. And I never left, really. But I'm still class myself as a New Zealander. I should have been put down as New Zealand on this year's starting list. Last time round, Daniel put me down as New Zealand. But I forgot to remind him.
So I know that you've done LEL before. I see that got delayed a year, didn't it, because of the pandemic? Wasn't that how that happened?
Yeah, that got delayed for a year. So it was, I think, 3 years ago.
Instead 3 years ago rather than 4. Yeah. I know that you've done Paris-Brest Paris at least once because I saw your jersey. Twice, okay. Tell me a little bit more about your cycling career and what you've been doing in the world of UltraCycling, Ian.
Well, I started off my cycling career in triathlon, actually, back in New Zealand when I was a younger man, but I was never big enough, strong enough, or powerful enough to do well. And when I came to England, I was living in central London, and I gave up sort of doing that. It was very difficult to do. I was barely riding my bike. And in 2016, I was just riding my bike a couple of times a week for an hour around Richmond Park, which is a central London park. And I came across this group called the Fridays, and they ride their bikes from midnight in London to the coast, which is any one of a number of coastal towns. And it's about 60 miles to the coast. They have breakfast, and then some of them ride back. And I thought, oh, that sounds like fun. So I did a bit of that, and while doing the second ride of that, I was speaking to some people, and they were talking about this London-Edinburgh-London event, which was huge. It's like 1,500 kilometres, and I couldn't get my head around it, but they said, it's happening next year, and we volunteer, we help out. We're really well known for doing that. And I thought, well, I'll go and have a look at that. I'll help out. So I helped out for a few days, and I could not believe that these ordinary people like me, were riding what I think were fantastical distances, some of them doing it on barely any sleep, some of them riding 300 or 400 kilometers and having a good sleep and some good meals. And I thought, I really want some of that. I'll do that next year. And then I discovered it wasn't next year, it was 4 years away.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
Paris came up, and they said, well, that's only in 2 years. And I thought, well, I'll have a really good go at doing that. So I applied myself to training quite hard, and I think I rode 65 hours, 64 hours or
Oh,
something like
wow.
that. And I thought, that was great. I'd never been loved so much. The French people are incredible. It's the middle of the night, and they're out in deck chairs, sitting on some isolated road junction, shouting encouragement to you. It was just so amazing. So I thought I can definitely go faster, and it's 2 years till London-Edinburgh-London. So I entered London-Edinburgh-London, and I had a fantastic event. I was also, you're not supposed to race Audex, but I like to race myself. I like to go as fast as I can. I like to go as fast as I can. So I was racing, but I don't care about anyone else. I just care about me, if that makes sense.
Well, Ian, you put two people together on a bike. On bikes, you're likely to have a race.
Yeah, I like to go hard, but these long distances, for me, if you both do well together, you're going to both go faster. So you're really helping each other to go faster. I'm not going hammer and tongs trying to drop the guy I'm with
Yes, I
at
know.
800 kilometers. I want to draft off him, and I want him to draft off me. We want to speak together, don't we?
I think Audex and Ron the Newring has a little easier time of getting permits and insurance and things like that than an actual race. I know that's true here in the United States,
It's
and
definitely true here.
I think it's true elsewhere as well. But it's a great sport. And a friend of mine lives in between Edinburgh and Glasgow. He's a cyclist. He kind of alerted me to the fact that they were expecting a storm. So I got looking at it and I thought, oh my goodness, this looks like a monster. Let's back off a minute. You need to qualify for Paris Best Paris, do you not?
Yes, you do. You need to do a super randonneur series, a 200,
Right.
300, a 400, and a 600 in the same season, and then you get to go to Paris. But LEL requires no qualification to enter.
Just put
so-
your money down and show up. Is there a limit on how many they'll take?
Yeah, it's always oversubscribed, and there's a ballot for places. And it doesn't matter who you are, unless you volunteered at a previous event to help, then you will get a guaranteed place.
You get a guaranteed place.
Or because it's a British event, if you're a member of the Audex, you get an entry as well.
So let's get back to this year. It started when? Saturday, did it? Last Saturday?
Sunday morning for
Sunday morning.
4 a.m. And it was wave starts, 15 minutes apart, about 50 people a wave, and they were by ballot as well. They used to have a fast boys start, but that's been taken away now.
Fast boys. The one thing we are learning a lot about in UltraCycling, Ian, is the women are winning
Yeah,
events
it's not
all
fast
the
boys.
time. All the time. That's been a thing. Our show, 18 years, we've been promoting that women are great participants. We just need more of them. So when you left on Sunday morning, did you have a weather forecast then?
Oh, we knew it was going to be bad. We were already racing the weather, so we'd worked out that the weather was going to get the front runners. It was definitely going to catch us in Scotland, but it was how far through Scotland it was going to catch us, and whether we'd be able to turn around and it become more of a help than a hindrance on the way out of Scotland. So we knew we were going to get soaked. We knew there was extreme amounts of rain forecast and high winds. So my plan was to get out of Scotland by Monday evening, which meant riding flat out, not stopping for meals at controls, just controlling and leaving the control as quickly as possible.
So what direction was the wind when you were headed up?
It was a fair head side wind on the way up. But, the wind has a habit of changing, doesn't it? So you get a headwind out and then you turn and then all of a sudden you feel like you've got a headwind back.
Yes, I've always said I had a tailwind once, but I can't remember when or where that was for sure. Yeah,
I had some amazing tailwinds when we did get to the wind, because it didn't come. It actually came with a lot of rain on when the bad weather arrived. And for me, the bad weather arrived when I was at a place called Brampton, and that was when I became solo. There were four of us together. One person was exploding, and he was going to stop. The other person was somebody quite well known, a guy called Nick Dehan, who was first at Paris-Brest last edition.
Yes.
He stopped for a meal and a sleep at Brampton. He was there first. I rode in with the guy who was suffering, and a very strong Frenchman called Benoit. I don't know his last name. And he was super strong. He also, but he was big. And he stopped for food and sleep, and that left me. So I went, right, well, I'm going. So I controlled and I left immediately. And then
Now,
the minute I left, it rained. It rained horrifically.
did you learn that it had been suspended before you got to Edinburgh, or did you learn when you got there?
I knew that it was going to be suspended, and I knew that they were going to shut the controls. And I was at a control just before Edinburgh at Moffat, so I knew that Daniel was going to call it at some point soon, and that I needed to get on the road because they would then stop us from going any further. So I knew I could make Edinburgh, and after that, I thought it was just going to be a pause. So I didn't know it was going to be a complete stop. So when I left the Moffat control, I was very lucky. I had climbed over a mountain and then got a tailwind or a tail side wind. So that was some of the most exciting riding I've ever done. It was high winds and I was speeding. It was amazing.
Now, we've had Nick on the show, Nick DeHaan. Talked to him ahead of time. We're going to try to get a little chat with him before he started, but that didn't work out. It was my fault. I dropped the ball. But at any rate, they sort of got stopped there at the control point before Edinburgh. Is that my understanding?
Yeah,
But you'd already left.
Yeah, no. So when I was in at Moffat control, there was nobody at the control behind. They arrived at the control behind Moffat, so that's two controls from Edinburgh.
Oh, okay.
They were stopped at that. There was the Frenchman, he was stopped at Moffat, and then I was stopped at Edinburgh.
Now,
So
did
Nick didn't get out. He got a place called Hoyt.
did they give you an official finish official arrival at? They signed your card, did they?
Yeah, I had my card signed when I got to the turnaround at Edinburgh, and I was told the minute I arrived there that we were suspended for 4 hours, which was quite good because I also knew that I had 81 kilometres over the guy behind because that was the next control behind us. That gave me plenty of time to have a good sleep, good ride, wait for the 4 hours to come up for us to be told what was happening next, and knowing that no one was moving. And then they suspended it again for another 4 hours. So I had a second meal, dried all my kit under the hand dryers, then got dressed up and waited for 7:30 when we were going to be told whether we could move or not. And at 7:30, we were told it's been canned completely. We're to stay where we are for the night. And then riders were to make their way south back to London. And because I was at the furthest point, that meant that I could go to the two controls on the loop because Scotland has a loop. So I would be the only one to get to visit those controls, which meant that I was the only one to get all the stamps.
Now, the news story I saw indicated that the people who turned around, got back, were given finish medals just the same. Is that correct? Did you get one?
Yes, I did.
So, but there was no. Did you get your card signed at the end, or? There we go.
There we go. So I'm the only one with every single slot filled.
So the stop stayed open, did they?
Yeah, they kept everything open. It was quite sad because the two Scotland controls that I had to visit, I was the only cyclist to visit them. So I left my control point that I was at in Scotland. I left there at 11 o'clock that evening and rode over the mountain to the other Innerleithen control. They waited up for me and they stamped my card, and I slept there for 4 hours until the morning. And then I rode to the next control, which also had no other cyclists to visit it. They stamped my card and then sent me on my way, and then they all packed up. So it was quite sad because I was the only one to visit those.
Well, be sure and check the links in the description that you'll see down below with the videos here in YouTube or Facebook. There's quite a few different links there we'd like you to take a look at, one of which is a news story that has a video in it with you finishing. I thought that was quite interesting. Here's all these racks, waiting for thousands of people, and it's just Ian riding in. So that was a beautiful piece of video. I loved it.
Yeah, I think that was probably Brampton, which was the next control I went to just before we climbed back over the mountain again. And to be honest as well, that was, again, it was a good thing Daniel stopped the racing, or stopped the event, because even the next day, it was 24 hours later, I climbed over a hill called Yad Moss, and I had to put every bit of item of clothing I had on. I was still being blown all over the road. There was no way that 2,000 cyclists should have been going over there, even then.
Well, I did a little checking using AI, Ian, and I discovered that at one of the checkpoints during the ride, they recorded a wind speed of 136 miles an hour.
That wouldn't surprise me. Look, it was the worst conditions I've ever ridden in, and I've been riding bikes since I was 16. I'm 55 now. I was blown off the road twice. I had to stop and put my foot down a number of times and wait until the gusts passed before carrying on. I had to walk 2 little sections because I couldn't ride my bike. And every van that came down the road towards me that day, I was looking at going, please be a London-Edinburgh-London van saying, we've stopped the racing, get in the van with your bike. But you can't stop in the middle of nowhere. So you've got to carry on.
No,
I didn't want to ride
up.
Anymore. Yeah, no van showed up. There were trees down on the road. The wind was the rain was going sideways. It ruined my light, which I've had for 5 years. It ruined my big headlight for overnight riding. I had to ride on my emergency lights the next night and a half. I wouldn't choose to send anybody out on it, and I didn't want to be out on it. But,
you know something, Ian. When you get to be an old man like me,
I think I'm far off it, am I?
and you've had life has finally told you can't ride anymore, and you stop and talk about things. This is what you're going to talk about. You'll talk about London-Edinburgh-London in 2025. It's always you never tell people about the beautiful day where you had a tailwind, the sun was shining, and the temperatures were mild. No, you talk about about these, and you got something to talk about. Well, that's quite an achievement, Ian.
No, I really did want. I trained for a year and a half for this. The previous edition I rode, and I just didn't want to embarrass myself, and I wanted to ride well. And I was really lucky. I rode with a man called Enco de Jong, who was first home twice, and we were the second group in. But I had to push my bike up 2 little hills. I couldn't ride it anymore at that point. I know I was slowing Enco down a little bit. This time I wanted to ride to my limit, and I certainly rode to my limit. Because even though it was called off on the way back, I still rode as hard as I could home. But even better was the last, 400 kilometers. I was now catching up to people who had turned around. So I got to see people and ride with some people and do a talk to some people at the controls, which normally you don't get to do, because normally I go into a control and there's me and a few other people and we're gone again. So it made it really interesting as well.
Oh, maybe this is not the time to ask you this question. What's next for you in cycling?
I don't know.
The
reason I'd like to start. The whole idea of riding further interests me quite a bit, and TCR and things like that. But I ride as hard as I possibly can, on the limit most of the time in these events. And this is like 70 hours of riding. I can't ride that long. I'd have to get some better brains and be more thoughtful about putting in my effort. I couldn't ride, 14 days or something. I think I'd injure myself. So, well, I guess we have to see, really. That's not a very good answer, is it?
Well, you've only just started to recover from LEL, so I didn't expect much more.
What I didn't say this time, which I said after the last LEL, was never again.
Never again, yes.
Never again.
Well,
I do know I'm doing Paris in 2 years' time, and I want to go under 50 hours.
Ian, I've said never again as I was making my hotel reservation for the next year.
Yeah, I can get that.
Well, listen, thanks for talking with us. We appreciate it. Having with us and taking this time out so rapidly after you just finished.
That's a pleasure. It's a real pleasure.
Hang in there.
Thank you very much.
UltraCycling magazine. The show
This is Gregory Zuber, thanking you for watching and sharing.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.